All right, everyone, welcome to our week 9 live classroom. For anybody who's not aware, we do have an exam this week. And so my primary goal today is to get you guys ready for that exam. One nice thing is that we don't have a new chapter to cover today. So my slideshow today basically consists of us going through a couple of programming assignments and then looking at the practice exam that I sent out. So let's look at some of these programs first. So I'm thinking we probably have time to do 2 or 3 of these together today. All right, so let me just kind of read through these, and if you see one that you like, throw it into the chat, or just let me know, and we can do whichever ones you guys want. Okay, so write a defining table in a program that reads an integer n from the keyboard and then displays the word sunshine n times in a div. So if the user types in 500, I'd have sunshine written 500 times. Pretty useful. Write a defining table in a program that reads a phrase and an integer n from the keyboard and then displays that phrase n times in the div. Write a defining table in a program that outputs the first 25 numbers in the Fibonacci series. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know what the Fibonacci series is, each number in the sequence is the sum of the previous 2 numbers. So you can see 1 right here is the sum of 0 and 1, 2 is the sum of 1 and 1, 3 is 1 and 2, 5 is 2 and 3, 8 is 3 and 8, or 3 and 5, and so forth. Okay, so to get the first 25 numbers of that series, rewrite the number guessing game code found in review question number 16 so that it counts the number of guesses that the user takes to correctly guess the answer. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that one was the one with like the prompt that popped up and you kept on guessing. It was looping through until you guessed the right answer. And so we would add like 2 lines of code to that to track how many times they guessed it, or it took them to guess it. Write a defining table in a program that asks the user for an integer n and then outputs the following table. Okay, so I would have, if the user put in like 5, then I would say, or up to n, and then we just have this table. So 2 times n, 3 times n, n squared, n cubed, and display that table. Write a defining table in a program that builds and displays a 12 by 12 multiplication table. And write a defining table in a program that allows the user to enter 10 numbers and then computes and outputs the average of those numbers. All right, you guys, you pick them. What's first? You guys are gonna make me pick for reals? Well, if I pick, I'm gonna pick the multiplication table. That one sounds like fun. All right, I'll do that. And then if anyone chimes in, like I said, we have time for a couple of them. So let me open up my text editor here. All right, so if you're like, whoa, what is this crazy stuff that's going on? You usually have Sublime open. This is Visual Studio Code. And for the purposes of today, we will do the exact same thing that I would do in Sublime. All right, so let me open up our book real quick. Oh man, I thought I had a window open. Hang on, you guys, let me pull this up. I needed to open this up anyways because the links for the tests are in here. All right, week 9, week 8, either one, same chapter. And chapter 8, repetition. Uh-oh, my computer's going slow. All right, I think that did it. Okay, good. All right, so let's look at that. Let's see, I said multiplication table. All right, write a defining table and a program that builds and displays a 12 by 12 multiplication table. All right, first things first, since I'm starting from scratch here, I'll just say W3 Schools, HTML. And I'm just gonna copy their starter HTML piece of code right here. and paste it, save it as an HTML file, and I'm just going to save this to my desktop, and I'll say in class example1.html. All right, so we have this here. I'm going to copy the file path and then paste it in here just to make sure that this is running. Okay, so it is rendering my HTML. I'm not seeing just like the text of my HTML there, but it is rendering it. So let's work on our defining table. All right, so inside the head, I'm going to make a script tag. And then in here, I'm going to have our defining table. So what do you guys think we could use for our input for this? Do we need any input? I see Sarah shaking her head. I don't think we need any input. If I look back at our book here, it just says builds a 12 by 12 table. Okay, so I don't think we need any input. Our output is the 12 by 12 multiplication table. All right, how about our processing? What do you guys think? All right, so I'm just gonna kind of go through this. You guys are kind of quiet this morning, and that's fine. But at any point, if you guys want to chime in, feel free to do so, okay? So if I was gonna think through this as far as making a 12 by 12 multiplication table, I know I don't have any input, so I would want to loop through. So I'm just gonna say loop 12 times to get the numbers from 1 to 12, okay? Inside each of those loops, I might end up doing another loop, okay? Because if I'm going to make a table, let's say I loop from 1 to 12. That sounds like a single row of my 12 by 12 multiplication table. If I have 2 loops, then I could multiply each iterator every time I go through and essentially get every cell of my table. So I'm going to say loop through 12 times again to get each row. All right, so this was for each column. All right, if I loop through 12 times, it would give me my first column. And then we're gonna have to loop through, or sorry, other way around. That'll give me each row, and then the second one will give me each column, okay? And then multiply the iterators together to get the values of the individual cells. All right, pretty simple defining table here. Let's leave it as it stands, and let's try to do this real quick. So I'm gonna make a function called generate table. We don't have any inputs, okay? And so, well, you know what? One input that might be fun, I'm gonna go ahead and say var table size equals document get element by ID. We'll just say user input dot value. This is a number, so I'm gonna have to parse it. I'll say parse int. And then in here, I'll go ahead and say, please enter a number for your awesome table. I'll have an input, type, text, and the ID we said was user input. All right, make a nice break there. I'll delete that paragraph, we don't need it. And for our heading, I'll just say times table. Okay, so with this, if I have this for an input, the user can type in 12 and we'll plan on displaying that big of a table. Otherwise, we'll just display whatever they ask us to display. So HTML table, let's Google that real quick. HTML table, W3 Schools should be the first thing to pop up. There's a couple of things that I want to show you here. There's a lot of different ways that we could do this program, all right? But notice the syntax of this table, all right? I have a table tag, table row, table header, and then TD is table column. I don't know why it's D and not C, but it's a D, okay? So this is kind of what I'm thinking of building with JavaScript. As we loop through, I'll add rows and I'll add columns with the cell values in there, and then we should get a nice table when we're done, okay? Let me just refresh this. All right, so that looks pretty nice. I can type in 15 there. We need a button. Whoops. Oh, let's throw in a button here real quick. I'll say button, type, button, on click, generate table. And I'll just call it generate table. Okay, that's what the user will see. And then if I refresh, you can see we have our button there. All right, which we'll call our function, and it's not doing anything yet. So we get the input from the user. Let's say they type in 12. Our output, we'll worry about in a sec, and we'll have our processing. Okay, so first things first, I said I'm gonna build a table. So I'm gonna say var table string equals table. All right, so notice that that looks exactly like what it's gonna look like in HTML when it's rendered. Okay, so I'm just gonna start this off, and then I'm gonna start my loop to decide how many rows and how many columns I need. So I'm gonna say for, I'm gonna declare row equals 1, while row is less than or equal to table size, row plus plus. Okay, and then inside of this loop, I'll go ahead and say table string plus equals, and then we're gonna add our first row HTML attribute. Okay, so every time we come across a new row, we will add a new row HTML attribute to our table string that we're going to print out to the user. But then once I have that made, I'm going to say for column equals 1, while column is less than or equal to table size. Whoops. Oh yeah, table string, sorry. Column plus plus. All right, so look at what we're doing here. Okay, so I'm looping through for every single row, and then I'll create the row. All right, and then for this, you might imagine that I'll have to add a TD for the table cells. Okay, but so I'm just going to say table string plus equals, and then I'll say TD. But now we actually have to put a value in here. So I'm going to do some nice string concatenation here. I'm just going to say column times row. Okay, and then I'll say plus TD and close my cell, that HTML element. Okay, so this is going to do just about everything that we need. We just have to close off each of our rows and then close off our table when we're done. So after this loop's done, I'm going to say table string plus equals, and then we'll close our row. All right, and when the rows are all done, then I'll say table string plus equals, and then we'll close off our table. Okay, and then all we'll have to do for this is just say document dot get element by ID. I'll just say output dot inner HTML equals, whoops, table string. Okay, down here I'll just say div ID output, whoops. Okay, and I'll make sure these are tabbed over nicely. And I want to tab these over as well. All right, any questions up to this point? I know we're going kind of fast. Any questions? Okay, well then let's head back over to our browser. I'll hit refresh, and then I'll type in 12, hit generate table, and nothing happens. F12, let's see what's going on. Wow, no errors. For better or worse, at least with errors, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so because there aren't any errors, I'm going to put a breakpoint right there. Hit generate table. Table size is 12, so that's good. Start off our table string, loop through here. I'm just going to F10 a few times to see what we're getting. So table string currently, oh, it ended a row. Interesting. I don't think it went into here. So column equals 1, while column is less than or equal to table string. It needs to be table size right there. All right, I'm going to take out these breakpoints and let it go. Because you guys see what's happening right here? I said while column is less than table string, which isn't a number. So I'm going to let that go. And then in here, I'll say table size. That needs to be table size. Little things, man. It's always the little things. All right, type in 12, take off that breakpoint. And there's our table. It's kind of ugly. All right, I might want to add a little bit of style to that, especially if I type in like 50 or something. Yeah, we might want to add a little bit of style to that. So let's go ahead and do two things real quick before we finish this up. I'm going to throw in a style tag up in here. All right, has anybody done this by chance? Yeah, okay. So there's lots of different ways to apply styles. Anytime you have a table, especially one that's being generated by JavaScript, it's better to put your styles somewhere else, okay? So in here, I'll just say table, tr, td. That means that whatever I put into here, these styles will be applied to all three of those HTML attributes. So I'll say border, 1 pixel, solid black, and then I'll say text align, center, and also say padding 3 pixels. So this first one will give us a nice border around every single cell. This next one will center align the content of every cell. And this next one will put 3 pixels of space outside of the number inside of every cell. So it'll force each cell to have some nice spacing around each number, okay? Yeah, so let's do that real quick and let's see how that looks. So if I type in 50, that looks a lot better, okay? All right, just for kicks, let's add one more thing into here. So we have some good styling going on here. Inside here, where I'm putting the table, so the cell value, the multiplied value, I think it'd be kind of cool to show a diagonal line going across each number square, all right? So to do that, I could just add a simple if statement in here. And I could say if column is equal to row, okay? So whatever number is multiplying, if the column is the same as the row is, then I'm gonna say table string plus equals, and I'll go ahead and say TD, but I'll add some style in here. All right, and I'll say background color is equal to, and I'll just say pink. All right, and then I'll close that. And then I'll say plus column times row, same as the other one, plus, and then close off that HTML attribute. All right, and then in here, I'll say else, and then I'll put that in there. Okay, so we'll only do a regular colored one if it's not on that diagonal line. Okay, so come over here, refresh. If I type in 50 again, see we have a nice pink line going there. All right. Okay, anything else you guys want to do with this one? All right, go team. Okay, any preference on what we do next?
Can we do the Fibonacci one?
Yeah, that sounds like fun. The Fibonacci one, I taught this to my C++ class the other day, and I told them this is a very, very common interview question. Just a heads up, okay? I've had this multiple times in an interview question. Sometimes they actually want you to write out code in whatever language you're interviewing for, and other times they just want you to think it through with them on how you do it. But let's do it real quick. So I'm just gonna paste this over here, and I'm gonna save it as a new file. I'll say in class example 2. All right, we probably won't need that style. And this, we're just gonna delete all that. We won't need function generate table, but I'll leave some of that there. I'll leave some of the rest of this here. All right, so let's think about this. Do we have any input? Let me go over to our assignment prompt here. Where is Fibonacci? Right here. Shonda, welcome, glad you could make it. All right, so write a defining table in a program that outputs the first 25 numbers in this Fibonacci series. Okay, any input? No, unless we wanted to go above and beyond, kind of like we did with the last one, and be like, oh, you can type in whatever number you want. However, with the Fibonacci sequence, if you write in a big number like 500, it could cause your computer to kind of stall because it'll get big really fast. So we'll just say none for this one, okay? Our output is the first 25 numbers in the Fibonacci sequence, okay? All right, how about our processing? Okay, let's look at our pattern here. How could we do this? Knowing that each number in the sequence is the sum of the previous 2.
to loop through both or the first two numbers type of thing.
Yeah, I think we would definitely want to loop. We could say loop until we hit 25. Okay. Each time we loop, maybe for our processing also, we could say declare first two numbers in sequence as 0 and 1 to kind of give us a starting point. And then each time we add those together to get a new number, we can increment those. So we'll do that inside the loop. So inside the loop, I could just say, so we loop until we hit 25, add two previous numbers together, update two numbers that will be added, and I think that's it. Okay, does that look okay to you guys? Okay, so cool hotkey in here in Sublime or Visual Studio Code. If I hit Control D, it'll select the next instance of a string. So I'm going to call this Fibonacci generator. Okay, so we're going to call our Fibonacci generator function. We don't have any input. Just for kicks, we'll go ahead and leave this input here for now. Please enter number 4, Fibonacci. Okay, we'll leave that as user input, and then we'll say generate sequence instead of generate table. And we'll call this Fibonacci. All right, so our body should be good to go. All right, for our input, instead of calling this table size, I'll call this sequence number, or total sequence size. That's descriptive. Total sequence size. Don't need any of this table stuff. All right, I'm going to declare a variable called, well, we're actually going to have to declare a couple things. So we have total sequence size, and I'm going to declare var a equals 1, b equals 0, and message equals 0. And we'll declare a temp variable, okay? Because remember, I taught you guys how to swap the values of two variables earlier in the semester, and you can't just like trade them. You have to have a temporary variable to store one while the other one takes its place. So by putting all this into one line, I declared a, b, and message and assigned them each a value. And then I declared temp and I didn't assign it anything, okay? Now I'm gonna say while total sequence size is greater than 0, I'm going to say temp equals a, and then a equals a plus b, equals temp, all right, and then message plus equals, need a comma, nice space there, plus b, okay, and then we'll subtract 1 from our total sequence size, okay. So while total sequence size is greater than 0, we'll take a and we'll assign that to temp. Then we'll add a and b together and assign that to a. Okay, I could write that a little bit better and just say plus equals b. Okay, b equals temp, which was previously a. We put b onto message, again, which was previously a, and then we'll just subtract 1 from total sequence size until we hit 0. Okay, and then instead of outputting our table string, we'll output our message. Okay, any other thoughts on this one before we run it? Brother Bert, would you please enlarge? Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. All right, how's that? Is that better? Sorry, guys. All right, so let's head over to our browser, and I'm going to change this to in-class example 2. Fibonacci. So we wanted 25 numbers. If I hit 25, we get from 0 all the way up to 75, 0, 25. And let's look at what it wanted. It wanted 46, 3, 6, 8, which is right there, okay? And it's probably because I included that 0 there, okay? But if I typed in that 24, that'd give us the next 24 after 0, which would be a total of 25, so. Okay, if anyone wants to see this, Fibonacci, I could probably just Google Fibonacci. Yeah, this is what it looks like, okay? but if you're curious. All right, any questions on this one? Let me head back to my code. So just to review this, if you guys weren't able to see it very well, user types in a number, okay? In this case, we were wanting 25. We didn't need that for our assignment, okay? If we didn't want that, then I could have just taken this out and said 25, okay? We declare A and B as our first two numbers in our sequence. Message, we just start off at 0, and then we'll just keep on adding to it. And then temp is just going to be a placeholder for variables as we swap things around, okay? So I'll assign A to temp. I'll add B to A, okay? So our first one, A would still just be equal to 1 because we'd add 0 onto 1. But then B would get temp, which would be 1, all right? And then we would throw that onto our message and then reduce our total sequence size. So we keep on going down until we hit 0. And then it just keeps on adding the two previous numbers. Okay. Any questions on this one? Okay. Well, let's do one more. I think we have time for one more. Okay. Is there another one that you guys want to see done? Okay.
What about the number guessing one?
Yeah, we can do the number guessing one. Let's look at that real quick. So it said example 16, right? Which number was that? Head back to my slides, I can't remember. Okay. Oh, we write the number guessing game. So number 8. Review question 14. So that it counts the number of guesses that the user takes to guess correctly the answer. All right, so let's copy this and let's put it into our code. Let me just make a new file here. I can copy all this first. Paste it, but I won't need any of this. Okay, I'm going to save this as in class example 3. And then I'm going to copy this function and paste it in there. All right, so let's look at what this function is doing first. We have number guessing game. Message, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. Try to guess it. Please enter an integer between 1 and 100. So let's say the answer is 38. We declare a variable called guess. And then we're parsing an input from the user that is being received from a prompt. So one of those like pop-up windows that has an input. Put that in a guess. If answer is less than guess, then we say, hey, that's too low. If it's greater than guess, we say it's too high. And we'll keep on doing that while the answer is not equal to guess. As soon as it is equal to guess, we'll jump out of our do while loop, and then we'll say, hey, message, guess is correct. Okay, and then we'll alert that message. So what our assignment prompt is asking us to do is to count how many times it takes us to do this. Okay, so what do you guys think? How would we go about doing this? What are your thoughts? So here's a thought. We have a do while loop here, right? So every single time it runs, it's basically another guess. So if I declared something up here and I said var number of guesses equals 0, then every time I hit this loop, I could just say number of guesses plus plus. Okay. And then for our message, I could say message equals guess is correct. It only, let's say, and it only took you number of guesses. Okay, so let's run this and see how it goes. Copy path, go over to our browser, and paste it. Okay. We are just going to call this function, so I need to change this stuff down here. I'm going to take that out. We don't need an input for this one. We can go ahead and have a button. That's fine. So I'll call number guessing game when the user hits the button. We'll call it play game, and we don't need an output either. Okay, refresh. We'll play our game. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. I'll say 50. 50 is too high. Enter another integer. 30, 40. 40 is too high. 35 is too low. 37 is too low. 39 is too high. 38 is correct, and it only took you 7 tries. Okay, so every time we went through that loop, we just said, hey, you know, we're incrementing this because every time you hit that loop is another guess. So, okay, any questions on this one? Okay, Sarah, good pick. That was a nice short one. All right. So, any other questions about Chapter 8 before we dive into your exam? Okay, well then, without any further ado, I'm going to end this recording.